point during that incident that morning, you were out around the ground area there near the World Trade Center buildings. You're an Iowa native. The hills and cornfields of western Iowa must have seemed a lifetime away that morning. Can you speak to that issue a little bit?
Yeah, it certainly was a bit different that morning, and as it is most days, but in particular.
I hit
that morning. I would tell you, though, that one of the things that about Iowa is the community and family, and during that time on the ground, as I was on the street as the second plane struck the second tower, all of that kind of family and community came rushing back to everyone at the scene.
President Bush offered the Vice President use of Air Force One. It has more advanced communications, security, and medical equipment. Firefighters in Waterford, New York were still battling a tire fire today that broke out yesterday. The illegal tire dump burst into flames last night. Residents told firefighters they saw an explosion and ball of flame burst into the sky. Officials say the dump, which was closed in 1999, contains between 8 and 13 million tires. 6 people are dead and 17 injured after a fiery 14-car pileup in New Mexico. Crews have been sorting through a mile of wreckage from Friday's crash, trying to identify the victims. The charred and mangled metal made it difficult for investigators to tell where one car ended and another began. They say smoke from a fire near Interstate 40 drifted across the road, affecting visibility and causing the deadly accident. Last month at this time, she was an unknown in America. Today, she receives a hero's welcome. Thousands turned out in the hometown of Olympic gold medalist Sarah Hughes. The Long Island town threw a victory parade for the gold medal winner in women's figure skating from the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. About 60,000 waved yellow pom-poms and cheered for Hughes as she made her way through Great Neck in a Bentley convertible. Coming up a little later on KMEG News Nightcast, they're wearing the green a week early in Siouxland. We'll tell you what all the blarney's about.
And wintry weather just out to our west may affect your morning commute tomorrow. We'll give you the details coming up.
Your KMEG News team, Jeff Lewis. Weather with meteorologist Scott Ryan. And sports with Travis Chin. This is KMEG News Nightcast. Live, local, late-breaking.
If you need fuel, food, a hunting or fishing license, something from the tobacco outlet, a Powerball ticket, just about anything, come to one convenient place, Pronto, at Exit 2 off I-29 in North Sioux City. No, wait, did I mention that Pronto has a great casino where you can win $1,000 instantly? No, wait, did I mention that Pronto has a great casino where you could win $1,000 instantly? No, wait, do I have time? Oh, I guess not.
If you want the best yard in your neighborhood, come see the guys who know what it takes. The professionals at Builders Sharpening and Service in Cherokee. The experts at Builders can put you in the seat of John Deere's revolutionary zero-turn radius lawn tractor, the SST-18 Spin Steer. This maneuverable machine can cut your lawn mowing time and increase your mowing enjoyment. A John Deere SST-18 Spin Steer riding mower from Builders Sharpening and Service in Cherokee can put hours back in your weekend.
Are you up for a challenge? Take the Taco John's Taco Challenge. If you don't think Taco John's has the best tacos in town, we'll give you your money back. It's that simple. Take the Taco Challenge at Taco John's now. Nobody beats Taco John's.
Just announced 0% financing plus a $750 your Northland Ford store. For a limited time, choose the spring bonus of $750 cash back, plus 0% financing, or $2,000 cash back on a new Ranger. The best-selling compact pickup in America is built Ford tough right here in the Northland. Hurry, this offer and other spring bonus offers ends April 1st, only at your local Northland Ford store.
KMEG Weather is brought to you by Builders Sharpening and Service in Cherokee. Did you ever wonder why John Deere has so many models to choose from? Do you know which one would be the best for any season? At Builders Sharpening and Service, we do.
And now, meteorologist Scott Ryan and the live Doppler 2000 forecast.
Good late Sunday evening, everyone. Winter still holding strong out there as temperatures really didn't go much of anywhere. And we've got quite an interesting week shaping up for this week coming up. We'll get to that in a little bit. First, we'll check out Doppler Radar Network, and we can see over the last clouds have really started to move into Siouxland. A small disturbance trying to make its way on through. We can see that much of the precipitation being held up to our north and not really impressive. Really can't even get a good view of it. And even there, just a few snow showers. But we could get enough moisture later tomorrow morning to actually squeeze a little bit out. Just for a second opinion, let's go to live Doppler 2000, and that's going to show us the current view out there. And we can see with the live sweep, if it comes up, live Doppler 2000. Are you there anywhere? Nope. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, let's just move on to, here we go. It was stubborn. It just didn't really want to make its debut tonight. The live sweep making its rounds, but really nothing to view out there at this hour. We can see a few light echoes being covered by the banner there, but all in all, nothing hitting the ground right now. It's going to take a few hours to really saturate the atmosphere, and even when that occurs, not really looking at anything too impressive. Okay, now let's move on to temperatures, and we can see that actually they've been going up since the evening hours. We've been getting a little bit of warm air moving into the area. 23 in Spencer, 28 in Sioux City, 21 in Yankton. Look at that, 36 degrees in Norfolk at this hour. Live Doppler 2000 storm watchers, we got 33 degrees for Mike Johnson in Norfolk, 22 for David Jorgensen in Jefferson, 21 for Cindy Mackey in Spirit Lake, 24 right now for Rachel Kasich in Richland, South Dakota. And speaking of temperatures, they are going to be the main focus over the next 7 days. What temperature do you think we are equally likely to see rain and snow? 9% chance of seeing rain out there, and 32 degrees, you've got a 99% chance of seeing snow. Anywhere in this pink zone here, you could have rain, you could have snow, sleet, freezing rain, a mixture of things. And you guessed it. Well, check out the forecasted temperature throughout the upcoming week. We can see by the end of the week, it's going to get, well, a little messy. Areas precipitation is possible all the way from Wednesday through Saturday. I think we're really going to see quite a mixture of everything. We'll start out as a little bit of light rain, change over to a light mix on Thursday, and probably end as a little light snow on Friday. And yeah, you can see I even shaded in tomorrow morning. I think we might see just a little bit of a mix of rain or snow early tomorrow. Won't accumulate too much, but worth keeping an extra eye on. In fact, let's go over that in more detail the next 24 hours. Here's what's going on. Got a front drape just to our west and south. We're going to get a little bit piece of energy riding along it tomorrow morning. And once again, going to be real close to that dividing line between between rain and snow, I should say. So I think once again, early tomorrow morning, keep an extra eye on for some slick spots out there, a little bit of light rain. We're going to have that temperature hovering right around that critical point, and I think we're going to start out with some rain showers, change to some rain and snow showers on Thursday, and finally end it as some snow showers on Friday, and then by the weekend, who knows what will go on from there. So worth keeping an extra eye on as we go through this week.
All right, thanks, Scott.
Sure.
Straight ahead on KMEG News Nightcast, there are some of the most famous names in farming: John Deere, Oliver, and Massey Ferguson. It's a collector's paradise in Siouxland today. And a little bit later in sports, we'll check in and see if the Hawkeyes made their big run at the championship successful.
Get the right advice, and you'll get a better night's sleep. A home sleep specialist trained and certified to give you expert advice can help you choose the sleep system that's right for you. Home's Complete Sleep Gallery has every type of innerspring mattress, plus air, foam, and adjustable beds, too. Try the famous Tempur-Pedic mattress developed for NASA with imported Swedish foam for a better, fuller night's sleep. Get free delivery, our in-home comfort guarantee, and expert advice only from a sleep specialist at Home Furniture.
In business, there's one constant you can count on: change. If your insurance doesn't keep pace, you could have serious coverage gaps, or you might be paying for coverage you no longer need. Grandy Pratt understands the business life cycle. Our insurance solutions and periodic reviews of your situation will give you comprehensive protection and peace of mind. Does your business have the coverage it needs right now? Are you sure?
Tires, right.
Most important function your car performs: stopping. At Tires, we offer free brake and alignment inspection. Plus, we have a 6-month, 6,000-mile warranty on all parts and labor performed in your vehicle. That gives you confidence.
Their service is what makes the difference. It really is.
Stop in at Tires today. Just look for the huge Tire Man.
She's a high-stepping trotter for sure.
When Holzhauer Town & Country kicks up its heels, you can still depend on comfort with power doors and 3-zone temperature control.
That's why it carries the Holzhauer brand of Cherokee.
Learn to live healthier. Attend this free seminar at St. Luke's Regional Medical Center. Eye-opening eyelid surgery with Dr. Beth Bruning, ophthalmologist of Eye Associates. Tuesday, March 12th, 6 p.m. in the St. Luke's Auditorium.
KMEG News is brought to you in part by Holzhauer Motors in Cherokee, where our friends are customers and our customers become friends.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to experience a different culture? Many Siouxlanders got that chance today at the 11th Annual Multicultural Fair in Sioux City. Activities, food, and colorful costumes, just some of the entertainment, along with Robo-Man, who came with a message of peace and unity for all.
Sioux City is becoming a diverse population, and I can only suggest to folks that that's going to increase, not decrease. And so with the many different cultures that we have here, it's nice to know something about one another.
This event was sponsored by the Human Rights Commission. A little taste of Ireland came to Sioux City today as the 5th Annual Ireland and Song fundraiser got underway. Tons of people enjoyed music and entertainment by Irishman Tony Kelleher. All proceeds from this event go to the Boys and Girls Home and Family Services. And Communications Director Liz Costin says this fundraiser is becoming more important than ever.
Our agency relies so much on government funding that now is being, cut back more and more, that it's events like this that really help support our existence to continue to be able to provide programming for children and families.
The Boys and Girls Home hosts today's event will raise about $15,000. It was an event for people of all ages at the South Sioux City Convention Center today. Hundreds of toy collectors from around Siouxland turned out for this annual Tri-State Farm Toy Show. Farm toys as well as NASCAR and sports cars were available for parents, kids, and other toy enthusiasts.
Usually it's mostly farm toys because we live in a farm community, so you see a lot of people buying farm toys.
Now, this was the 12th year for the Tri-State Farm Toy Show. Just ahead on KMEG News Nightcast, we'll check in with the sports scene and have a preview of the Sioux City Bandits.
Change the misfortune of a job layoff into a career opportunity. CNA classes at Tri-State Nursing's Learning Center can have you earning a paycheck every week in as little as 3 weeks. Work when you want for top pay and a rewarding career. Help yourself by helping others. Now is the time to go from a job to a career. For more information, call Tri-State Nursing at 277-4442.
Professionals with pride, Tri-State Nursing.
1977 Morningside graduate Bob Kirschbaum, now an elementary principal in Spencer, Iowa, was named the 2001 Iowa Reading Administrator of the Year. Hi, I'm Bryn, a senior at Morningside College. I believe that Morningside is preparing me to be a successful educator like Bob. I wouldn't trade my Morningside experience for anything. I'm ready to succeed. How about you?
Morningside College, a history of success building for your future.
Are you up for a challenge? Take the Taco John's Taco Challenge. If you don't think Taco John's has the best tacos in town, we'll give you your money. It's that simple. Take the Taco Challenge at Taco John's now. Nobody beats Taco John's.
Hours a day. Just call the KMEG News Information Line 233-2600 extension 1414. Find out what's going on in Siouxland with KMEG News headlines and get the forecast from the KMEG Live Doppler 2000 weather team. It's all in the information guide in the front of the Quest Deck's yellow pages, along with sports, health, market updates, and more. The KMEG News Information Line from the Quest Deck's yellow pages. Call 233-2600 extension 1414.
KMEG and Star 102.3 remind you that the 14th of every month is Friend for Life Day. Call the American Cancer Society for your Friend for Life kit. Your kit comes with shower cards, stickers, important breast cancer information, and contact cards, so you can remind your friend for life to conduct a self-exam. This breast cancer awareness message is brought to you by KMEG, Star 102.3, and Siouxland Surgery Center and General Surgery and Diagnostics PC, dedicated to meeting and exceeding the needs of our patients.
Introducing the Polaris Sportsman 500 HO with a new high-output engine and 20% more power.
Come see Ed, Ted, Andy, and Randy at All Seasons Power Sports, Yankton, South Dakota.
Are you planning for summer vacation, golf, fishing, family things? At Larson's, we sell and service the safest, most economical cars, trucks, and vans in America. Hi, I'm Leon Larson. With us, it's a family thing too. A personal thing, an honesty thing, and a low overhead thing. At Larson's, there are no hidden costs, no surprises, no fine print. We're a family dealer with family values, and we'd like to do business with you and your family. We're Larson Motor Center, just off I-29 at Onawa.
Tomorrow morning at 6 on KMEG News This Morning.
Hello, I'm Josie Kohler. Tomorrow morning, we'll have a complete follow-up of the big stories, a report on the day's headlines, and a look at upcoming events in Siouxland.
I'm meteorologist Mark Torello. I'll bring you the KMEG Live Doppler 2000 forecast so you'll know how to dress your kids and plan your day.
Join Josie and Mark to get the latest news and the KMEG Live Doppler 2000 forecast so you'll know what to expect. Tomorrow morning at 6 on KMEG News This Morning. And now, KMEG Sports.
Welcome back, everybody. After a disappointing regular season, the Iowa Hawkeye men's basketball team knew it had to win the Big Ten tournament to get into the NCAA tournament. After last-second wins against Wisconsin and Indiana, today the Hawks face the Ohio State Buckeyes, a team that swept Iowa during the regular season. We'll pick it up right away. Here's Brent Darby from Ohio State. Goes in for the nice layup. He had 14 points and 5 assists. And then watch Terrence Dials for the nice shot. Ohio State up 24-10. And then Brian Brown with the good D. 29-15 Ohio State. They started hot here. And then watch Luke Recker, the hero of the last 2 days. Had a decent game today, but it wasn't enough. Ohio State ends Iowa's miracle run. They go on to win 81-64. On to the Big 12 tournament. where number 1 Kansas was taking on Oklahoma. And there was a nice shot by Oklahoma. Then watch as Nick Collison gets the ball right here, goes up for the shot, hoop in the harm. Collison finished with 15 points. And watch Hollis for Oklahoma goes in, nice shot. Number 1 Kansas went undefeated in the regular season in the conference. Today, they get beat in the conference tournament game. They get beat by Oklahoma 64-55. Now let's check out the tournament seedings today. Number one in the West is Cincinnati. They'll take on Boston University. UCLA faces Ole Miss. Miami against Missouri, and Ohio State takes on Davidson, still in the West. Number 2 seed Oklahoma takes on Illinois Chicago. Xavier takes on Hawaii. And there's Gonzaga. They kind of got the shaft today on the seedings. They should have been seeded higher. They got seeded 6th. They'll take on Wyoming. In the South, Duke is the number 1 seed. They take on Winthrop. Notre Dame takes on Charlotte. Indiana faces Utah. And the Trojans take on UNC Wilmington. Alabama is the number 2 seed in the South. They take on Florida Atlantic. Oklahoma State against Kent State. Pittsburgh takes on Central Connecticut State. And Cal takes on Penn. Maryland, the number 1 seed in the East, they'll take on the winner of the Elkhorn State-Siena game, which will be played on Tuesday. Wisconsin takes on St. John's. Marquette takes on Tulsa. Kentucky takes on Valpo. In the East, Texas Tech is the number 6 seed. They'll take on Southern Illinois. Georgia against Murray State. NC State takes on the Spartans, who have been in the Final Four the last 3 years. And UConn takes on Hampton, the team that beat Iowa State last year. In the Midwest, Kansas is the number 1 seed. They take on Holy Cross. The Stanford Cardinal take on Western Kentucky. The Gators take on Creighton from down the road in Omaha. Illinois takes on Steve Fisher and his San Diego State Aztecs. Texas is the number 6 seed. They take on Boston College. Mississippi takes on McNeese State. Wake Forest against Pepperdine. And Oregon, the number 2 seed, takes on Montana out of the Big Sky Conference. Now, all these games can be seen on KMEG. On Thursday, they start at 11:30 Thursday morning. In the women's tournament, the Iowa State Cyclones are the number 3 seed. They'll host Temple on Saturday in Ames. Drake is the number 7 seed in the East, and they'll play Syracuse on Friday. And the Iowa women, they got into the tournament. They're number 9 seed in the Mid-East. They play Virginia on Saturday. The NAIA Women's Tournament got the day off today before it heads into its Final Four tomorrow night at the Auditorium. Briarcliff Chargers will play in the Final Four after their 79-58 victory over Holy Family last night at the Auditorium. Their opponent will be Cornerstone, which defeated defending champion Northwestern last night 69-68. Game time is 8. In the other semifinal game, the Hastings College Broncos will face the Dakota Wesleyan Tigers. Game time is 6. The Northwestern men's team is still alive after their 72-62 victory over St. Vincent's in the men's tournament being held in Point Lookout, Missouri. They'll face Evangel tomorrow night at 8. Cornerstone will tackle Robert Morris at 6. Tonight at the Sioux City Auditorium, there was a city pep rally for the city teams that went to state or are going to state. The North and South Sioux girls were congratulated for their appearances at state, and the Heelan and East boys were given a good send-off as they play in Vets Auditorium this week. Well, this is actually the Bandits Media Day. They held that today to get ready for this season. Their regular season, actually, the NIFL season starts next week. The Bandits have a bye in the first week. They'll come back and take on the Crew. The players are excited to get the season started.
We're out here. We got a lot of experience now. Some of the guys have been in this league for.
Okay, now tonight. Well, here's Trav's Fabs. All right. Tonight at the Sioux City Auditorium, there was a pep rally for all the Sioux City athletes, as we said earlier. The North girls team and South Sioux girl teams were congratulated on their appearances in state the last couple of weeks. And East and Heelan boys were given a big send-off as they go off to state this upcoming week. There it is, action from the auditorium. There's the North girls as they were congratulated on their appearance. And there's South Sioux. They were champions in Nebraska. And East and Heelan walked out together to show a sign of solidarity as they head off to state this week. Be an exciting time for all those teams. Well, it was an exciting week for basketball fans as we had state basketball in Iowa and Nebraska, and we started the run to the big dance. Let's go right into Trav's Fabs. Well, no word yet. Iowa, even though they're not going to go to the NCAA tournament, no word yet on the NIT. They're probably headed there after their good appearance in the Big Ten tournament. And Luke Recker was named the all-tournament team in the Big Ten Conference tournament.
Very good. Thanks, Travis. We'll have your KMEG Live Doppler 2000 weather update when we come back.
Oh, luck of the Irish this month at O'Condon Auto Sales, Sioux City. Double your O down to $4,000 or cash back with IRS savings on over 350 factory fresh cars, trucks, vans, 4x4 sport utilities. At O'Condon Auto, all credit apps are accepted regardless of no credit, slow credit, or past problems. Your choice of 0% financing or 5-year 100,000-mile warranty. O'Condon always pays off your trade when they make a deal, so save the green at O'Condon Auto Sales and see the Sioux City Journal for details.
Menards is your bath remodeling headquarters. Start with a stylish corner shower from American Shower and Bath. This 32-inch white model is on sale, $179. A 38-inch chrome shower is $279. Finish your bath project with ceramic tiles from Styles. 8x8-inch Horizons tile is great for walls and floors, 77 cents each. 12x12 Dune tile is $1.79 each. Add style with tile from Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
Just announced 0% financing plus a $750 spring bonus at your Northland Ford store. For a limited time, choose the spring bonus of $750 cash back plus 0% financing or $2,000 cash back on a new Ranger. The best-selling compact pickup in America is built Ford tough right here in the Northland. Hurry, this offer and other spring bonus offers ends April 1st. Only at your local Northland Ford store.
Well, some KMEG employees took on a little different role today and were in hot competition with some city council members. You can find them at the City versus Media charity basketball game at the Sioux City Auditorium. KMEG's basketball team was made up of Dave Finger, Ryan Panitz, and Josie Kohler, and they were coached by Coach Larry Wentz. All proceeds from today's event benefit the United Way of Siouxland. The city team ended up beating the media team by 1 point. And I saw Dave Finger in here tonight. No broken bones or anything.
Oh, that's
He was
good.
getting around pretty good. So all's well that ends well, I guess.
Looked like a lot of fun, that's for sure.
Yes, indeed.
Tell you what, interesting week shaping up as far as weather's concerned. One quick look at your pinpoint planner, and it looks like pretty active by week's end. Keep an extra eye on it. Otherwise, temperatures right about where they should be for this time of year.
Okay, be sure to join KMEG News this morning at 6 for your weather news update. Have a good night.
Lucille and I, we're perfectionists. They used to say, when do you go home around here? And we say, we go home when it's right, which is true.
I've had some female problems. I've had several surgeries.
This is the first thing I've ever done acting. Zero formal theatrical training.
The stories you never knew about your favorite TV stars. The personal side of I Love Lucy's Vivian Vance.
I knew how to learn lines, but I didn't know any geography or where Africa was, believe me.
Her gay husband, the battles behind the scenes, and did she love or loathe Lucy?
Ginger Lynn, the former adult film star turned stripper, and her battle with cancer.
They've taken everything out.
Her suicide try before she was in her teens, her relationship with Charlie Sheen, and her story from the casting couch when she tried to go mainstream.
He says, no, 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 no. You're the biggest slut in the world. All you want to do is sleep with everybody you see.
The Superman mystery, murder or suicide. New revelations in the case.
It's possible that there was a struggle over a gun.
And why the woman who played Lois Lane has strong words about the state of TV today.
When I read now about these kids on Friends, I just want to barf, you know.
Will Smith, we knew him when.
It can't get any better than this.
From his first days on the Fresh Prince set to his tearful goodbyes to his co-stars when the series was over.
This is a really, really difficult time for me, you know, moving on.
Music legend Waylon Jennings. The interview about his troubled life with a cocaine addiction that cost him $1,500 a day.
You just couldn't go no farther. You get something to pep you up.
What's happening with the TV comedy cast? Dwayne and Dee today, and the man who played Raj reveals his problem with drugs.
I did indulge and got curious about the drugs and stuff.
What he says about his mom from the series and the mystery surrounding her death.
Mabel died shortly thereafter and was cremated.
From prime time to porn, murder to a strange marriage, we track down your favorite stars.
This is Entertainment Tonight, the most watched entertainment news program in the world.
Hello and welcome to the weekend edition of Entertainment Tonight as we give you the latest on TV's stars out in the spotlight. I'm Mark Steiner.
And I'm Jan Carl. Everyone knows what happened to Will Smith. He hit it big in the movies, and now he's an Oscar nominee. But it was TV that catapulted Will to stardom as the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And we've uncovered the amazing and emotional footage from his early days on the set.
This is prime time. This ain't cable.
I'm here all day acting silly.
Surrounding her death.
The lady wouldn't allow anyone to see her.
Ex-adult film star Ginger Lynn on her ex-boyfriend Charlie Sheen getting married.
I was there for him. I got sober with him.
Why she's back on stage as a stripper. The truth behind reports she's flat broke.
That's next.
We're in different ends of the music spectrum, but actually we're the same color. Nice and easy dark auburn, number 112.
Long-lasting color that rocks for me.
In perfect harmony with me.
Works with my own tones and highlights.
It gives me amazing color.
With one enticingly subtle difference.
Me. It's natural color, all my own.
Which is the best color there is.
Nice and Easy by Clairol. A beauty all your own. Recapture the look and feel of bright, beautiful, youthful skin with Aveeno's Skin Brightening Daily Treatment. Aveeno combines natural soy with vitamins A and C for a clinically proven formula that evens out tone and texture. Fine lines are visibly minimized, and brighter, more beautiful skin is revealed. As for wrinkles, who needs them? Aveeno Skin Brightening Daily Treatment. Discover nature's secret for brighter, younger-looking skin.
We now take you to Schlotzsky's.
Albuquerque, Turkey.
It's marvelous.
Albuquerque, Turkey. So hot and juicy.
Tea, dog breath?
Oh, I'd love some dog breath. I'll be right here when you get home, dog breath.
Will you marry me, dog breath?
Pedigree Breath Buster Dog Biscuits with eucalyptus oil and parsley. Calling somebody
Dog breath
is no longer an insult.
Good night, dog breath.
Sweet dreams, dog breath.
It's good for you. It's great for you. The natural power of Tropicana. Reach for the straw in the orange. Tropicana Pure Premium.
You're watching Entertainment Tonight. Whatever happened to your favorite TV stars?
Waylon Jennings died February 13th at the age of 60.
Spiraling from cocaine use.
I lost control in the late 80s. Things just got way out of hand.
That's next.
Tomorrow morning at 6 on KMEG News This Morning.
Hello, I'm Josie Kohler. Tomorrow morning, we'll have a complete follow-up of the big stories, a report on the day's headlines, and a look at upcoming events in Siouxland.
I'm meteorologist Mark Torello. I'll bring you the KMEG live Doppler 2000 forecast so you'll know how to dress your kids and plan your day.
Join Josie and Mark to get the latest news and the KMEG Live Doppler 2000 forecast so you'll know what to expect tomorrow morning at 6 on KMEG News This Morning.
Are you up for a challenge?
Take the Taco John's Taco Challenge. If you don't think Taco John's has the best tacos in town, we'll give you your money back. It's that simple. Take the Taco Challenge at Taco John's now. Nobody beats Taco John's.
You've splashed in her many lakes. But have you explored their shores? You've hiked amongst her hillsides. But have you seen what lies beneath? You've traveled her highways. But have you walked her hidden paths? Sure, you know Missouri. But have you really enjoyed it all? Discover Missouri, where the sun shines, where the adventure awaits, where the rivers run. Call for your free vacation planner today.
Introducing the Polaris Sportsman 400 with automatic transmission and our exclusive independent rear suspension.
Come see Ed, Ted, Andy, and Randy at All Seasons Power Sports, Yankton, South Dakota.
Entertainment tonight, the STAG Award. From Jennifer and Brad to Russell and Nicole's mystery dates.
So, first of all,
our Jan Carl is first on the red carpet and exclusively backstage. And Rashumba has the best and worst dressed stars. Then the latest on the Letterman controversy as Ted Koppel speaks out. Will he be replaced by Dave? Plus, Celebrity Fight Night. Your first look as the scandalous stars step into the ring. And Kelly Ripa's first major movie role and her kissing scene before she joined Regis. That's Monday.
welcome back to Entertainment Tonight as we find out whatever happened to your favorite.
To No Rub Optifree Express, the first solution so advanced you don't need to rub. No Rub Optifree Express. No wonder it's #1.
There's always been one special place every parent loves to share with their kids. Okay, make that 2. Come to McDonald's as we salute a year-long celebration of all things Disney, the Walt Disney World 100 Years of Magic celebration, and take home one of 4 special edition commemorative glasses. They're colorful, fun, and perfect for filling with memories.
$1 should stretch. So should pants.
You can show your love with the 3-pack of socks. Mom, also known as the human napkin.
It's only a deal if you still want it when you get home.
Sometimes you need a new TV. Sometimes you need dryer sheets.
Every carpet stain tells a story.
Heartburn? Give me a cold one.
Introducing Tums Cool Relief with Freva crystals for an immediate cooling, soothing sensation and fast heartburn relief. New Tums Cool Relief with calcium.
Why do I eat Healthy Choice Beef Tips Portobello?
Why? Because it has lean, tender chunks of beef and a delicious mushroom sauce.
And it's 97% fat-free with vitamins A and C.
Healthy Choice. Feel-good food.
Every woman dreams of having hair like this. Soft, manageable, full of body, full of flakes. Head & Shoulders has a separate conditioner. Unlike regular conditioners, it gives protection against dandruff and hydration for your hair and scalp, leaving it smooth, manageable, flake-free. Because every woman should have the hair she dreams of. Head & Shoulders Conditioner. Conditioning you want, flakes you don't.
Welcome back to Entertainment Tonight. Whatever happened to your favorite TV stars?
He was TV's Man of Steel, but mystery continues to surround the death of the man who played Superman, actor George Reeves. Was it homicide or suicide? The stars who played Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen give us their theories today about the tragedy.
To my certain knowledge, 3 bullet holes. And why are there 3 bullet holes from a suicide? And that has...
Includes 3 rooms of carpet installed for just $479, and Creative Carpets installs within a 200-mile radius. Don't horse around. Gallop into Creative Carpets for unbridled savings.
1977 Morningside graduate Bob Kirschbaum, now an elementary principal in Spencer, Iowa, was named the 2001 Iowa Reading Administrator of the Year. Hi, I'm Bryn, a senior at Morningside College. I believe that Morningside is preparing me to be a successful educator like Bob. I wouldn't trade my Morningside experience for anything. I'm ready to succeed. How about you?
Morningside College, a history of success building for your future.
If you need fuel, food, a hunting or fishing license, something from the tobacco outlet, a Powerball ticket, just about anything, come to one convenient place, Pronto, at Exit 2 off I-29 in North Sioux City. No, wait, did I mention that Pronto has a great casino where you can win $1,000 instantly? No, wait, did I mention that Pronto has a great casino where you could win $1,000 instantly? No, wait, do I have time? Oh, I guess not.
Luck of the Irish this month at O'Condon Auto Sales, Sioux City. Double your O down to $4,000 or cash back with IRS savings on over 350 factory fresh cars, trucks, vans, 4x4 sport utilities. At O'Condon Auto, all credit apps are accepted regardless of no credit, slow credit, or past problems. Your choice of 0% financing or 5-year 100,000-mile warranty. O'Condon always pays off your trade when they make a deal, so save the green at O'Condon Auto Sales and see the Sioux City Journal for details.
Introducing the Polaris Sportsman 500 HO with a new high-output engine and 20% more power.
Come see Ed, Ted, Andy, and Randy at All Seasons Power Sports, Yankton, South Dakota.
Welcome back to Entertainment Tonight.
At Meineke, you won't pay a lot, but you'll get a lot.
Morning, Dog Breath.
Hey, Dog Breath.
Ah, Dog Breath.
Hey, Dog Breath.
You'll always be my little dog breath.
Pedigree Breath Buster Dog Biscuits with eucalyptus oil and parsley. Calling somebody dog breath is no longer an insult.
There's so much beauty to drink in. Don't let your eyes feeling dry, gritty, irritated stop you from enjoying it. Your eyes deserve better. They deserve Refresh brand eye drops. They're what doctors recommend most. First, Refresh relieves and soothes dry eyes, then forms a lasting shield of protection that keeps irritation out and natural moisture in. And since more doctors recommend Refresh, the choice is clear. Refresh for relief that's fast and protection that lasts.
Chicken dinner. You? A sliver of trout and baby carrots!
Should have had Hungry Man from Swanson. With a pound of food, it's good to be full.
You want lush, radiant hair color. Color that lasts. Color that loves your hair. Discover Advanced Formula Hydrians. Moisturizing color that saturates so deeply, your color stays true for 6 weeks. Hair drinks up every drop, so even resistant gray vanishes. 6 weeks of lush, radiant color. Hydrience from Clairol. A beauty all your own.
I found a way to protect my teeth from cleaning to cleaning.
Aquafresh Multi-Action Whitening. Its stain and tartar defense formula gets your teeth whiter, then keeps them whiter.
From cleaning to cleaning.
Aquafresh Multi-Action Whitening.
I'm the Albuquerque turkey and I'm having some fun. I'm the poultry with Chipotle on a hot cheesy bun. If you're hungry, come to Schlotzsky's and remember my name. I'm the Albuquerque turkey at the top of my game.
The day has ended. Amber blends to twilight blue. The world softens a bit around the edges. You release all the cares of the day, and nothing else in the world matters. Bella Sera Pinot Grigio. It's going to be a beautiful evening. Or as they say in Italian, it's going to be a bella sera.
You're watching Entertainment Tonight. Whatever happened to your favorite TV?
Show. I made a lot of money by not having any money when I was
It was reportedly written into Vivian's I Love Lucy contract that her weight remained more than 20 pounds heavier than Lucy's. We'll be right back.
Are you up for a challenge? Take the Taco John's Taco Challenge. If you don't think Taco John's has the best tacos in town, we'll give you your money back. It's that simple. Take the Taco Challenge at Taco John's now. Nobody beats Taco John's.
There's no need to be surprised by the weather. Trust the K-Meg Live Doppler 2000 Pinpoint Planner. You'll know what to expect. It's a 7-day forecast that previews your work week and your weekend. Sophisticated technology and an experienced team of meteorologists means you'll get the most accurate weather information available. Don't be surprised by the weather. Get a forecast you can plan on. The K-Meg Live Doppler 2000 Pinpoint Planner. Brought to you by Builders Sharpening and Service of Cherokee.
The service you expected then is the service you still get today from Texaco. It does pay to choose a better quality gasoline for engine efficiency and longer life. It does make a difference to choose a cleaner, friendlier place to stop when you're on the road. It does matter to choose a name you can trust. Choose Texaco, star of the American road. See your local Texaco dealer today. Leeds Food and Fuel, 4000 Floyd Boulevard, Sioux City, and BJ's Mini Mart in Decatur.
O Luck of the Irish this month at O'Condon Auto Sales, Sioux City. Double your O down to $4,000 or cash back with IRS savings on over 350 factory fresh cars, trucks, vans, 4x4 sport utilities. At O'Condon Auto, all credit apps are accepted regardless of no credit, slow credit, or past problem. Your choice of 0% financing or 5-year 100,000-mile warranty. O'Condon always pays off your trade when they make a deal, so save the green at O'Condon Auto Sales and see the Sioux City Journal for details.
Sioux City Casino. We're gonna hit it. We're gonna hit it at the bell. We're gonna hit it. We're gonna hit it at the bell at Argosie's Bell. Sioux City Casino. We're gonna hit it. We're gonna hit it at the bell. We're gonna hit it. We're gonna hit it at the bell at Argosie's Bell of Sioux City Casino.
Conair gives you instant heat in a setter. 2 minutes and you're ready to roll. Get volume, curls, or waves. 2 minutes. The Conair Instant Heat Hair Setter.
Introducing the best America Online ever. New version 7.0. It's better, faster, and easier.
7.0 is the best.
America Online new version 7.0. Call 1-800-4ONLINE.
Sometimes it seems there's just not enough minutes in the day to do everything you need to do and still make your family dinner. Pull it all together with Manwich.
Monday on Entertainment Tonight, the STAG Award. From Jennifer and Brad to Russell and Nicole's mystery dates. Our Jan Carl is first on the red carpet and exclusively backstage. And Rashumba has the best and worst dressed stars. Then the latest on the Letterman controversy as Ted Koppel speaks out. Will he be replaced by Dave? Plus, Celebrity Fight Night. Your first look as the scandalous stars step into the ring. And Kelly Ripa's first major movie role and her kissing scene before she joined Regis. That's Monday.
Celebrating an E.T. star birthday on Saturday, Kerr Smith turns 30. Emmanuel Lewis is 31. And Juliette Binoche is 38.
And having an E.T.-style birthday on Sunday, Jasmine Guy turns 38. Shannon Tweed is 45. Chuck Norris is 62. And which star of Casino once worked part-time at McDonald's? That's Sharon Stone. She's 44.
For more details on the celebrities we profiled on this show and for all the Hollywood news, you can click onto our ET website 24 hours a day.
We leave you now with a preview of next weekend's Entertainment Tonight when we track down more of your favorite TV stars. Take care.
Bye-bye.
It indeed was a stroke.
I noticed a lump on my chest. I've often said that if there's one thing that my mother could give me was her strength.
I've had to learn some hard lessons very quickly. Always watch your back, because in that business, everybody is trying to take a piece of you.
He knows for a fact that we have not ever taken his money.
I don't have tons of money. I mean, I've been unemployed for a couple years, and I have a wife and a son, and I mean, we're doing okay.
I didn't like the way they let us go. Cancel in the middle of hiatus. And I was quite disappointed, quite angry, quite disappointed and hurt.
KMEG and Star 102.3 remind you that the 14th of every month is Friend for Life Day. Call the American Cancer Society for your Friend for Life kit. Your kit comes with shower cards, stickers, important breast cancer information, and contact cards, so you can remind your friend for life to conduct a self-exam. This breast cancer awareness message is brought to you by KMEG, Star 102.3, and Siouxland Community Health, supporting the breast cancer awareness campaign to improve the health of the Siouxland community.